Sword Art Online is a disaster. The writing is a joke, filled with nonsense and contradictions that make it impossible to take seriously. The characters are lifeless, generic husks with no depth or personality. Every attempt at emotion or drama falls flat because there's nothing holding it up. It takes a concept that could have been incredible and drags it through the mud, turning it into a hollow, brainless spectacle. There's no effort, no coherence, no soul, just empty noise pretending to be something meaningful. The game design in Sword Art Online is just as pathetic as everything else. It's painfully clear the author has no idea how these games actually work, and didn't bother to do even the most basic research. The mechanics make no sense, progression is laughable, and the entire structure is built on pure ignorance. It's not just unrealistic, it's insulting to anyone who knows the genre. If the games in Sword Art Online were real, no one would bother playing them, and they'd rather do literally anything else. The Sword Art Online fanbase is just as unbearable as the show itself. They treat it like some flawless masterpiece, completely immune to criticism. They rush to defend it with the most delusional arguments imaginable. According to them, if you don't like Sword Art Online, you must have just not paid attention, which is hilarious, considering there's absolutely nothing worth paying attention to in the first place. Their blind, obsessive loyalty borders on cult behavior, and trying to have a rational conversation with them is a complete waste of time. Just skip Sword Art Online altogether. There are countless other shows and movies out there that won't insult your intelligence. Why waste your time on a mindless, poorly executed mess when you could be enjoying something with actual substance? Sword Art Online doesn't deserve a single second of your attention when there's so much better entertainment out there. If you're looking for something genuinely worth your time, check out Immortals. It's a phenomenal action movie that takes Greek mythology and brings it to life in the most visually stunning way possible. The action is intense. The choreography is brilliant. Immortals is light years ahead of Sword Art Online in every possible way. This movie is a masterpiece of action, storytelling, and visuals, far surpassing anything SAO could ever dream of. Immortals is the real deal. In this video, we're going to break down everything that makes this movie so incredible. Then, we'll dive into the mythology itself and compare what's faithful to the original myths and what the film took creative liberties with.
Immortals is seriously underrated. The visuals are stunning, the action is intense, and the story packs more punch than most realize. It takes a unique spin on Greek mythology, wrapped in a dark, gritty atmosphere that sets it apart. It's way more than just eye candy. In this video, let's break down why Immortals is a hidden gem that deserves a lot more recognition. For starters, the visuals are magnificent. The director, Tarsem Singh, said it was a hardcore action film done in a Renaissance painting style, and that's the perfect description. The film is beautifully shot, with each frame feeling like it was carefully crafted to evoke the dramatic intensity of classic art. From the epic landscapes to the intricate details in every scene, there is an almost painterly quality to how the world is brought to life. The color palettes, the lighting, and the use of shadows all contribute to this hauntingly beautiful aesthetic. It's not just about making things look cool. The visuals play a huge role in setting the tone of the film. Every battle is like a work of art, with stylized imagery that elevates the action. The camera movement, actor positioning, and composition make the movie more than a standard action film. The visual storytelling complements the brutal combat, creating an unforgettable experience. The action is well choreographed, showcasing both fierce combat and impressive set pieces. The movie had a budget of $75 million, which is a lot lower than the usual budget for a mythology-based film. Despite this, the filmmakers made the most of their resources, delivering action that still looks epic. The choreography is sharp, and the raw intensity of the fights makes them grounded, even in a world of gods and legends. The filmmakers use their budget creatively, with stunning set designs and effects that help make the battles feel massive without the huge budget of other blockbuster movies. It's a great example of how smart filmmaking can deliver big impact, even on a smaller scale. The movie is rated R, so the fight scenes are bloody and brutal. The movie doesn't hold back. The violence adds to the film's dark feel. When it comes to mythological accuracy, Immortals isn't very faithful, but just because it's not accurate doesn't mean it's bad. Other movies or shows based on Greek mythology, like Chaos, Troy, Percy Jackson, and Clash of the Titans, are also pretty inaccurate, but they're still a lot of fun. The same applies to Immortals. It takes many creative liberties, but that doesn't detract from how entertaining and engaging the film is. The goal is telling a good story, not following the mythology to the letter. letter. It's interesting to see the deviations and how the writers made their own story. Instead of sticking strictly to the mythology, they took key elements and built something different. These changes helped the movie stand out. The writers wanted to tell a compelling story. They were able to create a plot that feels both familiar and different at the same time. The costume design is really impressive and helps bring the world of the gods to life. The way the gods are dressed in gold is such a great choice. It makes them feel regal, almost like they're glowing with power. The gold also adds this divine, otherworldly vibe that separates them from the mortals, making it clear they're on a whole different level. What's also cool is how each god has their own unique outfit, reflecting their personality and role in the story. It's these little touches that make each god feel distinct and memorable. The designs aren't just nice to look at, they also make the gods feel powerful when they're in action. The mix of sharp edges, sleek shapes, and detailed patterns gives the armor a strong yet elegant vibe. It's not just protective gear, it's a statement of their status and abilities. The costumes also add to the movie's overall epic feel. They help build this larger-than-life atmosphere where the gods truly look like they belong in a mythological world. It creates a sense of awe and makes the gods feel as grand as their stories. The costume design really nailed that balance between style, personality, and storytelling. The gold outfits definitely bring to mind gods of Egypt. In that movie, most of the gods also wore gold, giving them a radiant look. Gold fits perfectly with the mythological theme because it has long been associated with divinity, immortality, and power in various cultures and legends.
Unlike many other metals, gold does not react easily with air, moisture, or other chemicals, which means it stays shiny.
Hyperion's outfit has a really fierce look. The dark tones and sharp details give him a dangerous vibe that fits his role perfectly, making him look like someone you wouldn't want to mess with. The cast gives performances that add significant depth, particularly in the context of mythology. Henry Cavill is excellent. Watching him portray Theseus, a hero caught between destiny and personal choice, it's clear why he would go on to become such a powerhouse in later roles. His performance is full of emotion, making it easy to root for his character. Mickey Rourke is absolutely fantastic as the tyrannical King Hyperion. He brings a level of menace to the role that makes his character incredibly intimidating. Hyperion isn't just some basic villain. Rourke gives him a sense of ruthlessness and desperation that makes him truly dangerous. His performance adds an extra layer of tension to the film, making every scene he's in feel intense. Whether he's delivering a chilling threat or just glaring down his enemies, Rourke commands the screen with a presence that's impossible to ignore. His portrayal of a power-hungry king hell-bent on revenge is one of the standout parts of the movie. Stephen Dorff as Stavros, a cunning slave and master thief helping Theseus, was also a blast to watch. He brings a mix of charm, wit, and unpredictability to the role, making his character stand out in the midst of all the mythological chaos. He's smart, resourceful, and knows how to handle himself in any situation, with his quick thinking and sarcastic humor providing a nice balance to the more serious moments. It's one of those roles that could easily have been overshadowed, but Dorff really makes it his own.
Frida Pinto as Phaedra,
An oracle who guides Theseus on his quest, is really strong in the role. She brings a sense of mystery and wisdom to the character, perfectly balancing the mystical side of the film with a grounded emotional presence. Pinto's performance as Phaedra makes her more than just a typical prophecy character. Pinto has great chemistry with Cavill. The way she interacts with Cavill's character adds emotional weight to the film, making their scenes together some of the most compelling moments. It was also interesting to see the gods. This version of the gods was bold and different from what you'd expect. The actors who play them are a lot younger than you usually see in other movies and shows based on Greek mythology, which gives the gods a fresh twist. Instead of being these old, distant figures, they feel more alive and involved in the story. They're powerful, but they also have flaws that make them more real. This younger take on the gods is something unique to the movie, making them more active in the plot. It's a shame that we never got a sequel to Immortals, especially since it would have been amazing to explore more of this world and its characters. In 2015, a sequel was announced, with Cavill set to return in the lead role, and filming was even planned to take place in India. But unfortunately, nothing ever came of it. Despite the initial excitement, it doesn't seem like the movie will ever get made, which is a real missed opportunity. Given how well the first film set up its world, it would have been incredible to see more of the epic action and storytelling unfold in a follow-up. A graphic novel called Immortals, Gods and Heroes expands on the universe established in the film. It features new stories that dive deeper, exploring more of the gods, heroes, and mythological elements. The graphic novel offers a a chance to experience more of the rich world and characters fans loved, giving a taste of what could have been if the movie had gotten an actual sequel. The writers of Immortals went on to create Blood of Zeus on Netflix, which shares a lot of similarities with the film. It's another great take on Greek mythology, making it a perfect follow-up for anyone who liked Immortals and wants to watch something similar. What did you think of Immortals? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If the video was enjoyable, make sure to like and subscribe.
Let's see how Immortals compares to Greek mythology. We'll investigate the similarities and differences between ancient tales and modern cinema. There's a quote from Socrates: "All men's souls are immortal, but the souls of the righteous are immortal and divine." Socrates, born around 470 BCE in Athens, was an ancient Greek philosopher known as a pioneer of Western philosophy. But this quote is not directly connected to Greek mythology. Phaedra, a virgin oracle, experiences a prophetic vision of King Hyperion, using the Epirus bow to release the Titans from Mount Tartarus. Phaedra is indeed a character from Greek mythology, but she was not a virgin oracle. She was the daughter of King Minos of Crete and Pasiphae, making her the sister of Ariadne and half-sister of the Minotaur. Phaedra is best known for her tragic love story with Theseus, the hero king of Athens, and her stepson Hippolytus. Indian actress Frida Pinto takes on the role of Phaedra. In Greek mythology, Phaedra is usually seen as a Greek princess, not an Indian woman. This portrayal of her as a Greek princess stays the same in different versions of the myths. Classical texts don't suggest she's of Indian heritage or any different ethnicity from the other characters in Greek mythology. There are other virgin oracles in Greek mythology, such as the Oracle of Delphi, also known as the Pythia. She served as a priestess of Apollo at the Temple of Apollo in Delphi. According to tradition, she would enter a trance-like state to deliver prophecies to those who sought her guidance. The character of King Hyperion in the movie draws inspiration from Greek mythology, but the movie takes many creative liberties. In traditional myths, Hyperion is a titan often associated with light and the sun. However, in the movie, King Hyperion is portrayed as a malevolent human ruler with ambitions to overthrow the gods, which doesn't match the mythological Hyperion. The Hyperion character in the movie seems to be loosely based on King Minos from mythology, but he's a regular human, not a son of Zeus as Minos was. The Epirus bow featured in the movie is not from Greek mythology. It's a fictional weapon created for the movie. However, there is a character named Epirus in Greek mythology. Epirus was part of the Theban royal family. She was the daughter of Princess Agave and Echion. Epirus is not only a character name, but also the name of an ancient Greek kingdom and later a republic. It was situated in the region of Epirus, covering parts of northwestern Greece and southern Albania. In the movie, there's no indication that the bow is associated with the character Epirus or any other connection between them. It is also uncertain if the bow has any connection to the region of Epirus. But in Greek mythology, many characters are skilled archers. Some of these include Apollo, Artemis, Heracles, and Odysseus. In Greek mythology, the Titans were indeed imprisoned in Tartarus. Tartarus served as the ultimate prison for the most powerful enemies of the gods, including the Titans. However, Tartarus is not usually portrayed as a mountain in Greek mythology. Rather, it is seen as a deep abyss or pit within the underworld. Tartarus is not just a location, but also the name of a deity in Greek mythology. Tartarus is one of the primordial forces or deities, similar to Chaos, Gaia, and Eros. The Titans have steel rebars in their mouths. However, there are no stories in Greek mythology about the Titans having steel rebars in their mouths. Plus, steel rebars were not even used until the late 1800s, which is a lot later than the time period depicted in the movie. There are way too many Titans in the movie, and not all of them should be guys. In Greek mythology, there were originally 12 Titans in total, 6 males and 6 females. Who were the deities that preceded the Olympian gods? In alphabetical order, the 12 Titans and Titanesses were Coeus, Crius, Cronus, Hyperion, Iapetus, Mnemosyne, Oceanus, Phoebe, Rhea, Tethys, Thea, and Themis. The Titans wear dark orange helmets, and they have gray rock-like skin. In Greek mythology, the Titans were not typically depicted with dark orange helmets and gray rock-like skin. Traditional depictions of the Titans in ancient Greek art portray them as powerful, often gigantic beings, similar to the Olympian gods in appearance, but generally larger and more imposing. Their physical attributes were not characterized by specific colors or materials. It's said that a while back, when the world was still young, a battle raged in the skies above. The Immortals figured out that they could kill each other. In Greek mythology, immortality varied depending on the beings or entities involved. The gods and goddesses of Olympus were considered immortal and could not die in the same sense as mortals. However, there were instances where gods faced consequences for their actions or were incapacitated by other means. It's also ironic that in a movie titled Immortals, none of the characters are actually immortal in the literal sense. The winners of the war declared themselves as gods, and the vanquished were renamed Titans. This is similar to the Titanomachy, although there are several differences. It was a monumental clash involving the Titans and the Olympian gods, led by Zeus. With the support of his siblings and other gods, Zeus waged a decade-long war against Cronus and the Titans, leading to the loss of the Titans and imprisonment within Tartarus. This victory signaled the dawn of the Olympian era and the end of the Titans' reign. The Titanomachy took place primarily in the region of Thessaly, Greece, not the heavens. The Titans were called Titans long before their battle with the Olympian gods. Their name wasn't given to them after they were defeated. It's mentioned that the Great War receded from memory. In Greek mythology, the war between the gods and the Titans was a significant event that was remembered and recounted through various myths, stories, and cultural traditions. It played a crucial role in shaping the Greek understanding of the hierarchy of the gods. The movie takes place in Greece during 1228 BC. The stories of Greek mythology are set in a mythical past that does not correspond to any specific historical period. They blend elements of prehistoric times, the Bronze Age, and the early Iron Age with fantastical elements. The specific date of 1228 BC does not match any particular event or story in Greek mythology. Greek myths are generally set in a timeless past, rather than at precise historical dates. Hyperion and his army go to the Sibylline monastery. The Sibylline monastery is not from Greek mythology. In fact, the concept of a monastery itself is usually associated with Christian traditions, rather than ancient Greek religion or mythology. However, the term Sibyl refers to prophetic women in ancient Greece, who were believed to possess the ability to foretell the future. Hyperion wants to free the Titans and end the reign of the gods because his wife and children suffered from illness, and the gods ignored his prayers for help. In Greek mythology, there are no well-known human characters who explicitly sought to release the Titans and end the reign of the gods. The major stories about attempts to overthrow the Olympian gods typically involve divine or monstrous figures rather than humans. The rebellion against the gods is primarily a theme among the Titans, giants, and other supernatural beings rather than mortals. We move to the Kolpos Peninsula. The Kolpos Peninsula is not from Greek mythology. The term Kolpos Peninsula is a bit unusual because Kolpos typically refers to a gulf or bay, not a peninsula. A bay or gulf is a body of water, while a peninsula is a landform. However, they can often be found in close proximity to each other, with a peninsula jutting out into a bay or gulf. Theseus is being trained by the old man. In Greek mythology, Theseus was indeed trained by an old man, but the details of his training can vary depending on the source. One of the most well-known versions of the story comes from Plutarch's Life of Theseus, where Theseus is said to have been raised and trained by his grandfather, Pythias, the king of Trozen. But there is no story where Theseus is trained by a random old man in his village. Also, in Greek mythology, Theseus is from Athens, not the Kolpos Peninsula. Theseus and his mother, Aethra, face mistreatment from the villagers because Aethra is unmarried. In Greek mythology, Aethra is commonly depicted as the mother of Theseus. She is often described as the daughter of King Pythias, not as a peasant or commoner. Aethra's marital status can vary depending on the interpretation of the myth and the retelling of the story. In Greek mythology, Theseus and Aethra faced various challenges and hardships, but whether they were mistreated by others can depend on the specific version of the myth. Theseus is wielding a spear. In Greek mythology, Theseus is often depicted as wielding a spear, among other weapons. As a hero of ancient Greece, Theseus was known for his bravery and skill in battle, and he would have been equipped with various weapons typical of the time, including a spear. The spear was a common weapon used by warriors in ancient Greece, and would have been an essential tool for Theseus during his adventures and quests. In the movie, Theseus is a hoplite. Hoplites were the citizen soldiers of ancient Greek city-states, known for using spears. Their main weapon was the dory, a long spear about 7 to 9 feet in length. The general of the Athenian forces, Helios, says that Hyperion is the Heraclean king. Heracleon is the largest city on the island of Crete in Greece, and the capital of the region. While Heracleon itself is not directly related to Greek mythology in the traditional sense, the island of Crete has strong connections to Greek mythology. Hyperion is not depicted as the king of Heracleon in Greek mythology. There is no specific king. Helios isn't just a regular human general, he's a god representing the sun in Greek mythology. You often see him driving a chariot pulled by fiery horses, lighting up the sky every day and making everything warm. And he's the son of Hyperion and Theia. A man named Icarus orders Theseus and Aethra to wait until morning to evacuate the village with the other peasants and undesirables. In Greek myths, Icarus is often depicted as the son of the skilled craftsman Daedalus, rather than just an ordinary villager. Both father and son found themselves imprisoned on Crete by King Minos. Seeking freedom, Daedalus made wings using feathers and wax for himself and his son. He cautioned Icarus against flying too high towards the sun or too low towards the sea. However, caught up in the thrill of flight, Icarus disregarded his father's advice and soared too close to the sun. As a result, the wax that was holding his wings together melted. Icarus fell into the sea and drowned. The story of Icarus is often interpreted as a cautionary tale about hubris and the consequences of ignoring sound advice. In most versions of Greek mythology, there's no direct encounter between Icarus and Theseus. A soldier named Lysander faces expulsion from the army. Lysander isn't from Greek mythology. While the name Lysander pops up in different historical and literary settings, it is not tied to any major mythological character. Instead, Lysander is better recognized as a historical figure, notably for his involvement in the Peloponnesian War, where a Spartan military leader named Lysander played a significant part. The old man brings up the term Odysseys, referring to Homer's epic poem The Odyssey. It tells the story of Odysseus, a Greek hero, and his journey home after the Trojan War. Along the way, Odysseus encounters numerous challenges, including battles with mythical creatures, the wrath of the gods, and the seduction of sirens. The old man says, "It's not living as such that's important, it's living rightly." The quote is also attributed to Socrates, but it's not directly connected connected to Greek mythology. It's a philosophical statement, highlighting the significance of living virtuously, rather than simply existing. The old man turns out to be Zeus. In the Netflix animated series Blood of Zeus, Zeus also disguised himself as an old man to guide the protagonist, Heron, on his journey and to impart wisdom or assistance. This similarity is understandable, given that Immortals and Blood of Zeus share the exact same team of writers. In Greek mythology, while there are several instances where Zeus disguises himself, the specific portrayal of him disguising as an old man is not as common or well documented in classical texts as his disguises as other figures. Moreover, Luke Evans, who portrays Zeus, also played Apollo in Clash of the Titans, 2010, which came out a year before Immortals. Apollo is one of Zeus's sons. Zeus talks to his daughter Athena. In Greek mythology, Athena is indeed considered to be the daughter of Zeus. Athena was born fully grown and armored from Zeus's forehead after he swallowed her mother Metis, the goddess of wisdom and craft, to avoid a prophecy predicting that any child born to her would exceed him in power. So, Athena's birth is rather unique compared to other gods and goddesses in Greek mythology. Athena was able to blend into the surroundings like a chameleon. In Greek mythology, there is no specific mention of Athena possessing this ability. She is primarily known for her wisdom, strategic warfare, and craftsmanship rather than for shape-shifting abilities like blending into surroundings. Zeus says that none of the people on Earth should see them in their godly forms. In Greek mythology, encountering a god in their true form could have dire consequences for mortals. The sight of a god's full divine majesty could be overwhelming or even fatal to humans. For example, Semele asked Zeus to grant her one wish, and he agreed without hesitation. When she requested to see his true divine form, Zeus appeared in all his glory, causing Semele to die from the overwhelming sight. Zeus explains that gods are not allowed to directly assist mortals in their divine capacity, but they can offer aid in the guise of human friends. In Greek mythology, the gods were often depicted as intervening in the lives of humans, sometimes to aid them and sometimes to hinder them. Zeus believes that Theseus can lead the people against Hyperion, but it must be his choice. There is no known myth or legend that involves Theseus fighting against Hyperion. A brazen bull is shown. It is not directly related to Greek mythology, but it was a real torture device used in ancient Greece. But the brazen bull was made of bronze, not silver. Lysander is castrated. There are instances of castration in Greek mythology. One of the most famous examples is Cronus castrating Uranus with a sickle. Zeus transforms into an eagle. In Greek mythology, Zeus often transforms into an eagle. The eagle is one of the most common forms that Zeus assumes in various stories. For example, in the myth of Ganymede, Zeus transforms into an eagle to abduct Ganymede, a handsome Trojan prince, and bring him to Mount Olympus to serve as the cupbearer of the gods. Hyperion kills Aethra. In Greek mythology, there are no specific accounts of how Aethra died. Given the lack of details about her death in mythology, Aethra's fate remains unknown and open to interpretation. The gods can see what the humans are doing from Olympus. In Greek mythology, the gods were often depicted as being able to observe the actions of mortals from their home on Mount Olympus. While they did not possess omniscience, they were believed to have a keen awareness of events transpiring in the human world. Olympus is also shown to be high in the clouds. In Greek mythology, Mount Olympus was believed to be the home of the Olympian gods, but its exact location was not clearly defined. While it was often depicted as a real mountain, some interpretations suggested that Mount Olympus was situated above the clouds, in the heavens. The gods are all wearing golden armor and clothing. In Greek mythology, the attire of the gods is often described as magnificent and divine, but specific mentions of gods wearing gold armor and clothing are not common in classical texts. Instead, the gods are typically depicted as wearing garments made from divine materials that reflect their status as immortal beings. Zeus says that unless the Titans are released, no god shall interfere with the affairs of man. In Greek mythology, the gods frequently interfered with people. The interactions between gods and people were a common theme, and they often served as the basis for many myths and legends. Zeus warns that if any god aids or otherwise influences human affairs in their divine capacity, the punishment will be death. In Greek mythology, the gods were not killed for helping or interfering with mortals, as they were immortal beings, and thus not susceptible to death in the same way as humans. Heracles is one of the gods. However, in Greek mythology, he is not an actual god, but a demigod, meaning he is the offspring of a mortal human and a deity. Heracles' father was Zeus, the king of the gods, and his mother was Alcmene, a human woman. As a demigod, Heracles possessed extraordinary strength and courage, traits that made him one of the greatest heroes of Greek mythology. He was renowned for his 12 labors, a series of seemingly impossible tasks assigned to him as penance for a crime he committed in a fit of madness. Heracles was granted immortality after he died and ascended to Mount Olympus, where he was welcomed among the gods as a deity. So while he eventually resided on Olympus as a god, he did not live there during his mortal life. And this is before Heracles died, as he dies during the fight at the end of the movie. Theseus is sent to work in the salt mines as a slave. In Greek mythology and classical literature, there are no accounts of Theseus working in salt mines as a slave. When Phaedra touches Theseus, she envisions him wielding the Epirus Epirus bow while embracing Hyperion, but in Greek mythology, this scene does not exist, since the Epirus bow is not a thing. Phaedra talks to a thief named Stavros. Stavros is not a character from Greek mythology. It's a common Greek given name, but it is not associated with any specific figure or story in classical Greek mythology. Stavros comes from the Greek word for the Christian cross. There are 4 oracles in total. Phaedra is the true oracle, and the other 3 are there to protect her identity. The concept of multiple oracles with varying degrees of authenticity is not a common motif in classical Greek mythology. There's a character named Darius among those who escaped. This is not a character from Greek mythology. Theseus mentions that Phaedra can see the future, but she doesn't have the power to change it. In Greek mythology, oracles were often believed to possess the ability to see glimpses of the future and provide prophetic guidance to those who consulted them. However, the extent to which oracles could change the future was not clear-cut and varied depending on the specific myth and the role of fate or destiny. In some myths, the prophecies of oracles were considered to be fixed and unchangeable, reflecting the immutable will of the gods. In these cases, individuals might receive warnings or guidance from oracles about future events, but their actions could not ultimately alter the course of destiny. Hyperion has a guard named Mondragon. Mondragon is not a character from Greek mythology. There's another guard named Kyrkion. In Greek mythology, Kyrkion was a notorious bandit known for challenging passersby to a wrestling match. He would kill those he defeated. Kyrkion was eventually bested and killed by the hero Theseus, who used skill rather than brute strength to win the match. Poseidon intervenes and causes a massive wave to save Theseus and the others. In Greek mythology, Theseus has received help from Poseidon during his adventures. Poseidon is a key figure in Greek mythology, known as the god of the sea, horses, and earthquakes. He is often depicted as a powerful and bearded figure, wielding a trident, which is his iconic symbol. As one of the 12 Olympian gods, Poseidon holds a prominent place in Greek mythology and was worshipped widely throughout the ancient Greek world. He is the brother of Zeus and Hades, the ruler of the underworld. In some versions of the myth, Theseus is said to be the son of Poseidon, while in others, Theseus's father is Aegeus, the king of Athens. The variations in Theseus's parentage reflect the diverse regional traditions and retellings of Greek mythology. Theseus walks into the labyrinth to give his mother a proper burial. The labyrinth is indeed a prominent feature in Greek mythology, but it is not located on the Kolpos Peninsula. The most famous labyrinth in Greek mythology was designed by Daedalus on the island of Crete for King Minos. Theseus cuts his leg to leave a blood trail so he can find his way out. In Greek mythology, Theseus found his way out of the labyrinth with the help of Ariadne, the daughter of King Minos. She fell in love with Theseus and provided him with a ball of thread, known as the thread of Ariadne, or Ariadne's thread. Theseus tied one end of the thread to the entrance and unraveled it as he ventured deeper into the maze. After defeating the Minotaur, he retraced his steps by following the thread back to the entrance, leading himself and the other Athenian youths to safety. Theseus finds the Epirus bow in a rock. In Greek mythology, Theseus discovered his father's sword and sandals concealed beneath a hefty boulder. Aegeus hid the sword and sandals beneath a massive rock in the forest near where Theseus and Aethra resided. Aegeus instructed Aethra that once Theseus demonstrated his strength by moving the boulder, she should allow him to take the sword and sandals to Athens, to claim his rightful inheritance and be acknowledged as Aegeus's son. A guy wearing a Minotaur costume attacks Theseus. In Greek mythology, Theseus did not fight someone wearing a Minotaur costume. Instead, Theseus encountered and fought the Minotaur itself, a monstrous creature with the body of a man and the head of a bull. As part of the Athenian tribute to Crete, 7 young men and 7 young women were sent to Crete each year to be sacrificed to the Minotaur. Theseus offered himself as one of the young men who would be sacrificed. He was able to navigate the labyrinth and ultimately defeat the Minotaur. The Minotaur helmet is made of barbed wire, but barbed wire was invented in the United States in the late 19th century, which is a lot later than the time frame that the movie takes place in. There's also a sepulcher in the middle of the labyrinth. In classical Greek mythology, there's no mention of a sepulcher, which is a small tomb or burial chamber, located in the middle of the labyrinth where the Minotaur was housed. Theseus takes down the Minotaur by hitting him with a club several times, but in Greek mythology, Theseus stabbed the Minotaur in the throat with his sword. Theseus cuts the guy's head off. In mythology, Theseus did not behead the Minotaur. Theseus uses the Epirus bow and shoots 4 arrows. This isn't a reference to Greek mythology, but rather a recreation to a scene from the movie House of Flying Daggers. Theseus passed out because the Minotaur scratched his arm and it was poisonous. In Greek mythology, there are no accounts of the Minotaur being poisonous. The Minotaur's threat to those who entered the labyrinth stemmed from its size, strength, and predatory nature, rather than any toxic abilities. When Phaedra lays with Theseus, she loses her gift of seeing the future. In Greek mythology, there's no story where a virgin oracle loses her ability to see the future after being with a man. The characters walk directly into an ambush set by Hyperion's men. Ares and Athena come to save them. In Greek mythology, some gods were believed to possess the ability to teleport, or to move instantly from one place to another, suggesting teleportation or instantaneous movement as part of their divine powers. Ares kills several of Hyperion's men. In Greek mythology, Ares is the god associated with warfare, violence, and the carnage of battle. He's Zeus and Hera's son. Ares is often depicted as a powerful and fearsome warrior, embodying the chaotic and destructive aspects of warfare. Ares is using a hammer, but in Greek mythology, he is usually shown wielding a spear or sword, rather than a hammer. There are no prominent myths or depictions of him using a hammer as his primary weapon, but he does also use a hammer in Blood of Zeus. Ares is wearing a helmet. This is consistent with his association with battle and warfare. In Greek mythology, he is usually shown in full armor, including a helmet. Athena gives the characters some magical horses that they can ride to Mount Tartarus. Greek mythology includes several instances of gods granting characters magical horses. One example is Poseidon gifting 2 horses, Peleus and Xanthus, to King Peleus of Phthia when he wed the ocean goddess Thetis. Afterwards, Peleus transferred the horses to his son Achilles, who utilized them to pull his chariot during the Trojan War. Zeus comes and kills Ares for intervening. In Greek mythology, Zeus did not directly kill Ares. While Zeus and Ares had their conflicts, there's no account of Zeus killing Ares. In fact, despite their differences, Ares continued to play a role in the divine hierarchy as one of the Olympian gods. He does not die in the traditional sense. As an immortal deity, he is not subject to death like mortal beings. Zeus uses a flaming whip to kill Ares. In Greek mythology, there's no mention of Zeus using a flaming whip. Zeus is typically depicted as wielding thunderbolts or lightning as his primary weapon, symbolizing his power over the sky and storms. The other gods mourn the death of Ares. In Greek mythology, the gods never did this, because they are immortal beings. However, they may experience sadness when a fellow deity is wounded or defeated in battle. Theseus mentions that the Epirus bow is a weapon forged by Heracles. In Greek mythology, the god associated with crafting and forging, including the creation of bows and arrows, is Hephaestus, the god of fire, metalworking, craftsmen, and volcanoes. He is often depicted as a skilled artisan who creates various weapons and tools for the gods and heroes, including bows and arrows. While the Epirus bow isn't part of Greek mythology, Heracles is indeed depicted as using a bow in certain myths. Heracles is more commonly associated with feats of strength and physical prowess, but he is also portrayed as a skilled archer in some stories, like during the slaying of the Stymphalian birds. As part of his labors, Heracles was tasked with driving away or killing the Stymphalian birds, which were monstrous creatures with sharp metallic feathers. In some versions of the myth, Heracles employs a bow and arrows to shoot down the birds, thus completing this labor. However, Heracles never forged his own bow, and in the context of making a bow, the right term would be craft instead of forge. Theseus tells King Cassander about Hyperion's goal of unleashing the Titans. However, Cassander brushes it off, thinking the gods and Titans are mere stories, not taking it seriously. Cassander intends to negotiate with Hyperion and try to find a peaceful solution. Humans were generally aware of the existence of gods and goddesses in Greek mythology. While there might have been skeptics or individuals who doubted the gods' existence, belief in their presence was widespread in ancient Greek society. Cassander is not a character from traditional Greek mythology, but there is a historical figure also named Cassander. Cassander was a Macedonian general who lived during the time of Alexander the Great and the subsequent Hellenistic period. After Alexander's death, Cassander became a key player in the wars of the Diadochi, which were the power struggles among Alexander's successors. He eventually established himself as ruler of Macedon and parts of Greece. Hyperion wants Theseus to switch sides and join him. There are several Greek myths where heroes are asked or tempted to join the enemy or switch sides in a conflict, but there's no account of Theseus switching sides and joining the enemy. Theseus is known for his heroic deeds, not for betraying his own people or joining the enemy. The swords being used are Roman gladius swords, which are not part of Greek mythology. It was a type of sword used by Roman soldiers, mainly between the 3rd century BC and the 3rd century AD. Hyperion kills Cassander by beheading him. In real life, Cassander died of dropsy in 297 BC. Theseus kills Lysander. In real life, Lysander was leading a fleet of Spartan ships against the Athenians when he was killed in the fighting. Hyperion frees the Titans with the Epirus bow, just like Phaedra's vision predicted. In some myths, the Titans were imprisoned in Tartarus forever, with no possibility of release. But in later writings, there are stories of the Titans being released, or somehow escaping their bonds. The Titans are wielding hammer weapons. In Greek mythology, the Titans were known for their immense strength and power, rather than specific weapons. However, during the Titanomachy, some Titans used weapons. For example, Cronus wielded a scythe or sickle. The gods come to fight the Titans. Zeus is wielding a hammer, and then he uses some chains. In Greek mythology, Zeus did not use a hammer or chains as a weapon. As previously mentioned, Zeus wields thunderbolts, or lightning, as his main weapon. Athena is dual-wielding sickle weapons. In Greek mythology, Athena does not use dual sickle weapons. Instead, Athena is often depicted with a spear, shield, or helmet, emphasizing her role as a warrior goddess. Apollo is wielding a sword. In Greek mythology, Apollo, the god of the sun, music, poetry, and healing, does not use a sword. Instead, Apollo is often depicted with a bow and arrows, symbolizing his connection to archery. Furthermore, in Greek mythology, Heracles is not depicted as directly fighting the Titans in the same sense as the Olympian gods. However, Heracles did join the fight against the giants known as the Gigantomachy. Heracles played a significant role alongside the other Olympian gods in defeating the giants. His participation in the battle was one of his many heroic feats and adventures. Heracles is not using any weapons in the movie, but in Greek mythology, he uses a bunch of different weapons such as a club, sword, or bow and arrows. More titans are coming out of the ground. As mentioned earlier, there were only 12 original titans in total. In the movie, the gods bleed red, but in Greek mythology, they have something called ichor in their veins instead of blood. Ichor is a golden liquid, unlike the red blood humans have. This highlights the god's divine essence. Heracles is killed by the titans. According to Greek mythology, his end came from a robe given to him by his wife, soaked in the blood of Nessus the centaur, mixed with Hydra's poison. The poison caused him unbearable suffering, leading Heracles to build a funeral pyre and ask to be placed upon it. He was whisked away to Olympus by the gods. He was granted immortality and married Hebe, the goddess of youth. Athena and Apollo die. In Greek mythology, neither Athena nor Apollo die. Both are Olympian gods and are considered immortal. Zeus collapses Mount Tartarus on the Titans. Zeus didn't do this in mythology since Tartarus is not something that can be physically collapsed. Theseus kills Hyperion. Hyperion was defeated by Zeus and the Olympian gods in mythology. Zeus teleports to Olympus with Athena's body and Theseus. However, there's no Greek myth where Zeus brought Theseus to Olympus. Several years later, Theseus' story is now a legend. The gods bless him with a son named Acamas. According to Greek mythology, Acamas, along with his brother Demophon, is the offspring of Theseus and Phaedra. Acamas fought in the Trojan War. There's also a statue of Theseus, which is similar to real statues. Theseus was often honored with statues in various cities throughout Greece. The old man tells Acamas that his time to fight evil will come soon. In Greek mythology, Zeus doesn't interact with Acamas. The sky is filled with titans and gods battling side by side with Theseus. In Greek mythology, Theseus doesn't fight alongside the gods and titans. Poseidon is there, so he wasn't killed by the titans earlier. Thanks for tuning into the comparison between the Immortals movie and Greek mythology. We've uncovered some fascinating differences and similarities between the two. What movie or show would you like to see compared to its mythological origins next? Drop your suggestions in the comments below. Also, what did you think of the Immortals movie? I really enjoyed watching it. Even though the movie takes a lot of liberties with Greek mythology, it was still a fantastic experience. The action scenes were intense and kept me on the edge of my seat. The fight choreography was impressive, and the battles were epic. I found myself completely engrossed in the story. Despite the changes from the original myths, the cinematography in Immortals was stunning. The visuals were beautifully crafted, with striking landscapes and powerful imagery that added to the overall experience. The use of color and light was particularly effective, creating a unique and captivating atmosphere. Immortals raked in a whopping $226 million at the box office, and there's even a cool graphic novel called Immortals, Gods and Heroes to go along with it. As of now, there is no confirmed release date for Immortals 2. Although there has been interest and speculation about a sequel, it appears that the film is not yet in production. Reports suggest that the sequel could focus on the character of Acamas, the son of Theseus, possibly involving the Trojan War as a central theme. Both Henry Cavill and Luke Evans are expected to reprise their roles if the sequel proceeds. Additionally, here's how to beat Hyperion.
The movie begins with an oracle named Phaedra getting a vision of King Hyperion, using the Emperor's bow to set the Titans free from Mount Tartarus. The gods should have killed the Titans when they had the chance. Whenever characters are locked up in movies, it gives them the opportunity to escape in the future, which is exactly what happens to the Titans later in the movie. The old man is training Theseus. People are evacuating the village because Hyperion and his army will attack in a day. Theseus and his mother must wait until morning to move out. Waiting until morning is too late because Hyperion and his army will arrive. Theseus and his mother should try to blend in with the people leaving or find a different path. The old man turns out to be Zeus. He believes that Theseus will lead the people against Hyperion. Hyperion and his army launch an attack on the village. Theseus fights and takes down a bunch of Hyperion's men. Hyperion kills Theseus' mom right in front of him. This is why Theseus and his mom should have left with the other people evacuating. Waiting until morning was too late. Theseus could have also abandoned his mother. Theseus wasn't going to be able to beat all of Hyperion's men by himself, so it's better for him to escape. Hyperion might have spared Theseus' mom and turned her into a slave instead if Theseus didn't intervene and kill his men. The gods are forbidden to intervene with humans. The punishment will be death. However, the gods can disguise themselves as humans, just like what Zeus did, so they could do that if they want to interact with humans. Technically, it's not against the rules, and why are the gods forbidden to intervene with humans anyway? In other movies that feature the gods, humans and gods interact with each other all the time. If Zeus is the one making the rules in this movie, he can simply allow the gods to intervene with humans. Theseus is sent to work in the salt mines. Phaedra and her sisters are locked up nearby. When night comes, they all team up and cause a riot to break free. Hyperion's men capture the other sisters though. They should have all escaped together. Now it's obvious who the actual oracle is. She's the one who escaped, and Hyperion doesn't need to keep the sisters alive. The characters try to steal a boat, but they're surrounded by Hyperion's men. When Zeus isn't watching, Poseidon steps in and summons a massive wave that wipes out Hyperion's men. So it seems the gods can intervene when Zeus is busy. Theseus heads back to his village and lays his mother to rest in the labyrinth. He cuts his leg to leave a blood trail, but it's unnecessary. The easiest way to navigate a maze is to use the left or right hand trick. Choose either your left or right hand and keep it against the wall as you walk. This simple method ensures you won't get lost by always following the wall until you find the exit. Theseus discovers the Emperor's bow stashed in a rock. When Hyperion's men are about to kill the characters, Theseus uses the bow and takes them all down. It's a throwback to a scene from House of Flying Daggers. The characters fall for an ambush. They should have ran away instead of walking right into the trap. Hyperion's hyena takes the bow. Ares suddenly appears and kills Hyperion's men. Athena shows up to give the characters horses. Zeus comes too, but he's not happy. He kills Ares for intervening. Athena isn't killed because she didn't directly intervene, so giving stuff to humans doesn't count as intervening. If that's the case, the gods could give Theseus a bunch of stuff. He could really benefit from having powerful armor and weapons, and the other gods should have kept Zeus busy. As we saw with Poseidon, the gods can help out the humans without Zeus knowing, and there will be no punishment. Athena didn't need to come. She could have distracted Zeus. Ares could have brought the horses. Ares and Athena should have also disguised themselves as humans. If they did that, they would be able to intervene and help Theseus without getting killed by Zeus, because they're not intervening as gods. Hyperion has the bow now. The gods who made it should have enchanted the bow, like Thor's hammer, so only people who are worthy could use it. That way if it lands in the wrong hands, people who are evil wouldn't be able to use it. They wouldn't even have to hide the bow, because the bad guys couldn't use it anyway. Theseus should have destroyed the bow, so Hyperion couldn't get it. Later in the movie we see that the bow can be destroyed. Hyperion wants Theseus to join him. Does he really think Theseus will switch sides? Theseus just told Hyperion that he's still angry about his mom dying. He's not about to change his mind that easily. Or Theseus could pretend to join Hyperion and kill him when he lets his guard down. Hyperion uses the bow to destroy the wall. His army is way bigger, but that doesn't mean the characters can't win. There are plenty of wars throughout history that have been won by the side with smaller numbers. This is also true in movies. For example, in the first Narnia movie, Aslan's troops won the war. Even though they were severely outnumbered by Jadis' army, Hyperion uses the bow to free the Titans. Theseus was too late to stop him. Theseus could have thrown his sword at Hyperion instead of trying to get close to attack him. The gods show up to fight the Titans. Zeus destroys the bow. He should have done that a lot sooner. Then Hyperion wouldn't be able to use it to free the Titans. It also doesn't make sense for the gods to go head to head with the Titans. They could have stayed on the high ground and used ranged weapons without getting hit back. Theseus fights Hyperion, but he gets stabbed. There were a few things Theseus could have done to avoid getting stabbed. Went up against someone using a knife. Grab their wrist to control where the knife goes. Also, Theseus shouldn't have gotten rid of all his armor earlier. The armor would have provided protection against stabbing attacks. Theseus overpowers Hyperion and kills him. Zeus collapses the mountain on the Titans. The gods shouldn't have locked up the Titans when Zeus could have easily killed them. Zeus could have saved a lot of lives if he did this from the start. Zeus teleports to Olympus. He also brings Theseus there. Sometime later, the old man talks to Theseus' son. He tells him that his time to fight evil will come soon. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.
Mythology is filled with powerful gods, legendary heroes, and epic battles between good and evil. These ancient stories have been passed down for centuries, shaping cultures and inspiring countless adventures. Now, Netflix brings them to life with shows that dive deep into the worlds of magic, destiny, and legend. From fierce battles to mystical quests, these series capture the excitement and wonder of mythology like never before. Get ready to explore the best mythology shows on Netflix and step into a world where myths become reality. Blood of Zeus is an action-packed animated series that explores Greek mythology in an exciting way. It centers around a young hero who uncovers his divine heritage and is thrust into a battle against dark forces threatening the world. Along the way, he faces powerful gods, mythical creatures, and unexpected twists that challenge everything he knows. What makes Blood of Zeus great is how it reimagines Greek mythology in a fresh, intense way. The show stays true to classic myths while adding its own twists, making it exciting even for those who already know the legends. It explores the power struggles between the gods, the dangers of mortals caught in their conflicts, and the idea that fate isn't always set in stone. The animation is stunning, the battles are epic, and the storytelling is filled with drama and surprises. If you love Greek mythology, this show is a must-watch. It expands the world of the gods, showing new sides of Zeus, Hera, and other legendary figures. Whether you're into action or just great storytelling, Blood of Zeus delivers an unforgettable adventure. Twilight of the Gods is an epic animated series that reimagines Norse mythology with a bold, cinematic twist. The show focuses on the final days of the gods as Ragnarok. The prophesied end of the world looms over the realms. Heroes emerge. Gods like Odin and Thor are forced to confront their fate, and powerful battles decide the future of the world. What makes this show especially exciting is the involvement of director Zack Snyder, known for his work on 300, Rebel Moon, and the DC movies. His signature style shines through in this series. This show has that high-stakes atmosphere that Snyder fans will instantly recognize, with dramatic character arcs and jaw-dropping battles that feel straight out of a blockbuster film. If you're a fan of Norse mythology or Zack Snyder's films, this show is a must-watch. It's a visually stunning, action-packed take on ancient legends. Chaos is a bold reimagining of Greek mythology that takes viewers into a world of gods and mortals caught in a whirlwind of power and betrayal. The series explores the darker, more unpredictable sides of the gods' lives, lives, focusing on their flaws, weaknesses, and the consequences of their actions. As the gods face challenges that threaten their reign, this show offers a fresh and edgy take on ancient myths, blending modern storytelling with ancient legends. One of the standout elements of this show is Jeff Goldblum's performance as Zeus. His unique style and delivery infuse a captivating and unpredictable energy to the king of the gods. He adds layers of complexity and charm to the character, making Zeus both powerful and strangely human at the same time. If you're looking for a mythological series that's dark, unpredictable, and filled with complex characters, this show is definitely worth watching. Ragnarok is a fresh take on Norse mythology set in the modern world. The show explores the return of ancient gods and mythical forces in a small town, where the battle between good and evil starts to unfold once again. It blends the rich, epic stories of gods like Thor and Loki with the struggles of today's world, tackling themes like climate change, power, and fate. What makes Ragnarok so captivating is how it mixes the ancient and the modern, bringing old legends into a contemporary setting. It combines supernatural elements with relatable characters, making the gods and their conflicts feel more immediate and real. The series is full of mystery, action, and tension, with a tone that's both thrilling and thought-provoking. If you enjoy mythological stories that feel fresh and relevant, Ragnarok offers a unique spin on ancient myths that will keep you hooked from start to finish. Record of Ragnarok is a high-stakes series that unites gods from various mythologies to battle humanity's greatest warriors for survival. The gods have decided that humanity's time has come to an end, but a group of Valkyries intervenes, offering one final chance through a series of combat matches. Each match pits a god against a legendary human figure, creating an epic showdown between the divine and the mortal. What makes Record of Ragnarok stand out is its unique premise and the sheer scale of its battles. It brings together beings from Greek, Norse, Hindu, and other mythologies, each with their own powers and personalities. The human fighters are just as varied, representing different cultures and time periods. This diversity of characters, along with the intense, over-the-top action, makes each fight thrilling and unpredictable. If you're into intense battles, larger-than-life characters, and mythological showdowns, Record of Ragnarok offers an unforgettable ride. It's a series that takes the best of mythology and turns it into an epic tournament where the fate of humanity is on the line. The Sandman is a visually stunning and imaginative series that draws heavily from mythology and folklore. The series delves into themes of fate, dreams, and the boundaries between life and death, blending elements of various mythologies from around the world. What makes The Sandman so fascinating is how it weaves mythology into a larger, surreal narrative. The world building is rich and intricate, merging the mystical and the divine in a way that feels both ancient and timeless. If you're a fan of mythology and enjoy stories that blend the fantastical with the philosophical, The Sandman offers a deep and visually captivating experience that will leave you thinking long after you've watched it. The Witcher is a dark fantasy series that blends folklore, myths, and legends from various cultures. The world of The Witcher is filled with magical forces, mythical creatures, and morally complex characters. What makes this show so compelling is how it transforms mythical elements into a gritty and immersive experience. The series is packed with epic battles, intricate politics, and deep personal journeys, all set in a world where danger lurks around every corner. Its mix of mythological creatures and magical lore creates a rich, expansive universe. If you're a fan of stories that pull from mythology, this show offers a thrilling adventure filled with fantasy, magic, and legends brought to life. The new Legends of Monkey is a fun and adventurous take on the classic Chinese story, Journey to the West. The series follows a group of heroes as they embark on a quest to restore balance and fight off evil forces. The show blends mythology with action, humor, and a fast-paced story. What makes the new Legends of Monkey stand out is its playful and action-packed approach to mythological storytelling. The characters are inspired by iconic figures from Chinese folklore, but they're given a modern twist that makes them both relatable and entertaining. The vibrant world and fast-paced action keep the energy high, making it an enjoyable watch for all ages. If you love mythological adventures with a sense of humor and a lot of action, this show is perfect. It adapts an ancient Chinese legend in a way that's accessible. Troy, Fall of a City is a dramatic retelling of the legendary story of the Trojan War. Set against the backdrop of one of the most famous events in Greek mythology, the story of the Trojan horse, Achilles, and Hector, is reimagined in the series, delivering a thrilling and emotional experience. What makes Troy, Fall of a City stand out is its focus on the complex relationships. The series delves into the political intrigue and the divine intervention that shaped the fate of Troy. It portrays mythological characters in a way that feels both timeless and intense, blending epic battles with deeply personal moments. For anyone who loves ancient myths and legendary tales, Troy, Fall of a City is a must-watch that pulls you into the heart of one of the greatest stories ever told. That's a wrap on on the best mythology shows you can stream on Netflix. From ancient legends to modern retellings, both live action and animated, there's something for every mythology fan, no matter which culture fascinates you most. And this is only the beginning. With so many legendary tales still to be told, Netflix is sure to bring even more thrilling mythology series to life. The future of mythological storytelling has never looked better. It's thrilling to think about the incredible mythology shows that will emerge in the future. There are countless fascinating mythology stories out there that would make for amazing shows. If you enjoyed this list, don't forget to like, comment with your favorite show, and subscribe for more epic content. See you in the next video.
Discover the legendary tales and ancient myths that inspired The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. The movie begins in winter, a season often explained through myths like the famous Greek tale of Persephone. In the story, Persephone, the daughter of Demeter, is kidnapped by Hades, the god of the underworld, to be his wife. Devastated, Demeter, the goddess of agriculture, neglects her duties. She causes the earth to become barren, crops fail, and a great famine spreads. Zeus intervenes, demanding Persephone's return, but because she ate pomegranate seeds in the underworld, she's bound to stay there. Eventually, a deal is reached. Persephone will spend part of the year with Hades in the underworld and the rest with her mother on the surface. When Persephone's with Demeter, the goddess is joyful, and the earth blooms with life, symbolizing spring and summer. However, during the months when Persephone is in the underworld, the earth becomes desolate again, representing autumn and winter. Miranda Otto's Éowyn narrates the movie, a character deeply rooted in Anglo-Saxon and Norse mythology. She's based on Norse shield maidens, women warriors who symbolized courage and defiance. Scholars suggest that shield maidens may have been inspired by the mythological Valkyries, further tying her narrative to themes of bravery and strength in battle. Hera takes her name from the Greek goddess who is both the queen of the gods and the wife and sister of Zeus. Hera is the goddess of matrimony, women, motherhood, and familial bonds. Myths frequently portray Hera as vengeful and jealous, punishing Zeus's lovers and their children. The actress voicing Hera has the first name Gaia, a direct nod to Greek mythology's primordial goddess of the earth. Gaia is one of the first beings to emerge from chaos at the dawn of creation. Helm is considered to be a wraith, a ghostly figure rooted in mythology and folklore, often associated with death, curses, or the supernatural. In Scottish lore, wraiths are omens of death, while Greek mythology's Idola are shadowy spirits of the dead. Christian medieval folklore also depicts wraith-like figures as cursed or unresolved souls. Tolkien's ringwraiths, or Nazgul, draw on these traditions, symbolizing fear and corruption through their enslavement to Sauron's One Ring. The name wolf reflects Anglo-Saxon culture. Wolf's pursuit of vengeance aligns with themes from Norse sagas, where blood feuds and revenge are central motifs. In Norse mythology, wolves like Fenrir embody chaos and destruction. In many mythologies, rings symbolize power, eternity, and connection, often carrying great significance in storytelling. And Varanat from Norse mythology is a prime example. Forged by the dwarf Andvari, this magical ring could find gold, but carried a curse that brought misfortune and destruction to all who possessed it. Orcs are not directly taken from traditional mythology, but their design was heavily influenced by various mythological and folkloric traditions. In Norse mythology, trolls and giants were often monstrous, malevolent beings similar to orcs. European folklore also features creatures like goblins and ogres, sharing traits with Tolkien's orcs. The word orc itself likely derives from Orcus, a figure from Roman mythology, who's often associated with the underworld and punishment of the wicked. Here's a cool fact. These two orcs are voiced by Dominic Monaghan and Billy Boyd, the actors who played Merry and Pippin in the live-action Lord of the Rings movies.
Here are some cool Greek mythology references and Easter eggs in Chaos. The title itself, Chaos, is a nod to chaos in Greek mythology. Chaos is said to be the first thing to exist, the void from which everything came. One of the locations is Crete, usually spelled with a C instead of a K. Crete is a real island with a lot of history. Gaia's granola is a nod to Gaia, the goddess who represents the earth. Achilles' heels is a play on the story of Achilles, the great warrior from the Trojan War. Achilles was invincible except for his heel, which was his one weak spot. The phrase Achilles' heel has come to mean any small but critical weakness. There are toys of Poseidon's trident for sale. Poseidon's trident is a powerful weapon that the sea god uses to control the oceans, create storms, and cause earthquakes. Riddy buys a pomegranate, which is a reference to Persephone. Persephone was taken to the underworld underworld by Hades, the god of the dead. While there, she ate a few seeds from a pomegranate, which meant she had to stay in the underworld for part of each year. This story explains why we have seasons. When Persephone is with her mother, Demeter, it's spring and summer, and when she's in the underworld, it's fall and winter. Cassandra mentions men hidden inside a horse, which is a reference to the Trojan horse. The Trojan horse was a clever trick used by the Greeks to win the Trojan War. The club's called Panopeus, a nod to a figure of the same name from Greek mythology. Zeus mentions that he got a watch from Hercules. Hercules is actually the Roman name for the hero. In Greek mythology, his name is Heracles. The president of Crete is named Minos. In the myths, Minos was the king of Crete, an important figure known for his role in various stories, including the legend of the Minotaur and the Labyrinth. The billboards feature Muse and the Centaurs. Muse refers to the Muses, who are goddesses of the arts and inspiration. Centaurs have a human torso and a horse's lower body. Orpheus is a musician. Orpheus was famous for his incredible musical talent. He could play the lyre so beautifully that his music could even influence the gods. Orpheus mentions that the Trojans desecrated the monument to the gods. In the myths, the Trojans were the enemies of the Greeks, especially during the famous Trojan War. Prometheus is shown chained to a rock, while an eagle eats his liver. Prometheus was punished for stealing fire from the gods and giving it to humans. Boreas is mentioned, which refers to the god of the north wind. He was known for bringing cold winds and winter weather. The newspaper is called Echo. Echo is a nymph who was cursed by Hera to only be able to echo other people's words. Orpheus mentions Asphodel. The Asphodel Meadows were a place in the afterlife where ordinary souls would go. It was neither a place of punishment nor reward, but rather a neutral zone where souls spent their afterlife. A coin placed in Riddy's mouth is a reference to Charon's obol. Charon was the boatman who ferried souls across the river Styx to the underworld. This coin acted as a payment for his services. The character is named Poly, which is a reference to Polyphemus. Polyphemus was a giant cyclops known for his one eye and his role in the story of Odysseus. Zeus calls his other kids Ares, Athena, Apollo, Aphrodite, Artemis, and Hermes. Ares is the god of war, recognized for his fierce and combative nature. Athena is the goddess of wisdom and warfare. Apollo is the god of the sun, music, and prophecy. Aphrodite is the goddess of love and beauty, admired for her charm and allure. Artemis, the goddess of the hunt and the moon, is known for her skills in archery and her deep connection to nature. Finally, Hermes is the messenger of the gods, famous for his speed and cleverness. There was a puppy named Hestia. Hestia is the goddess of the hearth and home, symbolizing warmth, family, and domestic life. Hestia was known for her gentle and nurturing nature. There's a gas station called Tyndareus. Tyndareus was a king known for being the stepfather of the famous Helen of Troy. Icarus is referenced. Icarus is famous for his attempt to fly too close to the sun. Theseus is a bodyguard. In the myths, Theseus was a hero known for his many adventures, including defeating the Minotaur in the Labyrinth. There's a sports team called the Satyrs. They were mythical creatures with the upper body of a man and the lower body of a goat. Anatole is referenced. Anatole was the goddess of the dawn, representing the early morning hour when the sun first rises. Perseus is referenced, and it's mentioned that he might bring the horse with the wings, which is a nod to Pegasus. Perseus is a hero famous for slaying the Gorgon Medusa and for his various adventures. After Perseus's victory over Medusa, Pegasus sprang from her blood. Apples play a significant role in Greek mythology. For instance, the golden apples in the myth of the Garden of the Hesperides were highly sought after and were a symbol of immortality. Hera mentions Kronos. Kronos was a titan and the father of Zeus, Hera, and other major gods. Kronos' reign was marked by his fear of being overthrown, which led him to swallow his own children to prevent them from taking his throne. However, Zeus, his youngest child, managed to escape this fate and eventually led a rebellion against Kronos, leading to the rise of the Olympian gods. The peacock in the background is a reference to Hera, who's famously associated with this bird. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more awesome mythological videos.
The Odyssey, directed by Christopher Nolan, is set to be a cinematic experience like no other. The film is set to hit theaters on July 17, 2026. The Odyssey is a timeless epic poem from ancient Greece, written by Homer. The story focuses on Odysseus, a hero who faces numerous challenges as he struggles to find his way back home after the fall of Troy. His journey takes 10 years and is filled with challenges, monsters, and divine interventions. The poem explores themes of perseverance, loyalty, and the struggle to reunite with family. Odysseus receives help from the goddess Athena, while the sea god Poseidon tries to stop him. The story begins in the middle of his journey, with Odysseus stranded on Calypso's island. His earlier adventures are revealed to us through flashbacks and narration. The epic ends with Odysseus returning to Ithaca, defeating the suitors trying to marry his wife Penelope, and reuniting with his family. Written around the 8th 8th century BCE, the Odyssey reflects the values of ancient Greek culture, like hospitality and cleverness. It remains one of the most influential works in Western literature. Red One puts its own spin on Santa's story, but how does it compare to mythology? This video explores the traditions and myths to uncover what's true and what's Hollywood fantasy. Santa meeting children at the mall isn't part of Christmas mythology, but a modern cultural tradition. By making Santa a friendly, approachable figure, it brought the legend into everyday life. Santa's story draws from many sources. One of his key inspirations is Saint Nicholas, a 4th century bishop known for secretly giving gifts and helping the poor. Over time, his legend grew, making him a symbol of generosity. Elements of Santa also come from Norse mythology, where the god Odin, a wise and bearded figure, rode through the sky on his 8-legged horse Sleipnir during the Yule festival, delivering blessings. Children would leave out food, much like leaving milk and cookies for Santa today. Father Christmas in England represented joy and festivity during winter, while Sinterklaas in the Netherlands brought gifts to children on December 5th. Dutch settlers introduced Sinterklaas to America, where the name evolved into Santa Claus. The modern image of Santa, as a jolly man in a red suit, was popularized in the 20th century, thanks in part to Coca-Cola advertisements. Santa is protected by a security team led by Callum Drift, but this is purely a modern movie twist. In mythology, Santa doesn't have a security team. Santa claims to love snickerdoodle cookies, but Christmas mythology doesn't mention a favorite type of cookie. Santa's reindeer are female and unnamed. In mythology, they're male and have names. This naming tradition originates from Clement Clarke Moore's 1823 poem A Visit from St. Nicholas, which introduced Blitzen, Comet, Cupid, Dasher, Dancer, Donner, Prancer, and Vixen. Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, was added later in 1939 through a story by Robert L. May for Montgomery Ward. While the movie depicts the reindeer as larger than normal, Christmas lore doesn't specify their size, leaving it to interpretation. They're often imagined as either ordinary reindeer or larger-than-life creatures fit for their magical duties. The choice to make the reindeer female in the movie aligns with the fact that female reindeer keep their antlers through winter, while males shed theirs in late fall. Callum gives pretzels to the reindeer, but mythology makes no mention of their diet, let alone pretzels, adding another modern touch to the story. Santa's codename, Red One, isn't part of Christmas mythology. He's been known by several names, but Red One is a modern creation specifically for the movie, and not part of the original legend. In mythology, Santa's reindeer aren't described as flying at supersonic speeds. However, they're often portrayed as magical creatures with the ability to fly, which allows them to travel around the world in a single night to deliver presents to all the children.
It's always disappointing when a mythology film franchise is cut short. So many captivating worlds of gods, monsters, and ancient legends were left unfinished, leaving viewers to wonder what could have been. In this video, we'll take a look at some of these franchises that ended too soon. Gods of Egypt is a stunning movie that reimagines ancient Egyptian mythology in a captivating way. The effects are impressive, showcasing the gods' abilities and battles. The action is fast-paced as the heroes face powerful gods and mythical creatures. The movie offers an enjoyable experience, full of larger-than-life moments. Critics may not have loved it, but for those who appreciate fantasy and mythology, Gods of Egypt is a fun and entertaining ride. Lionsgate had high hopes for the movie, seeing it as the launchpad for a new franchise following the success of the Hunger Games films. Gods of Egypt was meant to introduce audiences to the rich world of Egyptian mythology and open the door for more films set in that universe. Unfortunately, the film didn't perform well at the box office, and any plans for sequels or an expanded franchise were quickly shelved. It's truly a missed opportunity, especially considering the relative scarcity of films based on Egyptian mythology. Egyptian mythology is full of mesmerizing tales of gods, pharaohs, and legendary creatures, offering endless possibilities for incredible cinematic adventures. It's a shame we may never get to explore more of this world, as there's certainly so much more potential for films waiting to be told. Clash of the Titans follows Perseus, a demigod who must face impossible odds and battle mythical monsters to save humanity from destruction. The action scenes are intense, with impressive visuals that bring the legendary creatures, like the Kraken and Medusa, to life in a way that feels engaging. The movie is filled with thrilling moments. Overall, Clash of the Titans is a fun, action-packed film that transports viewers into an ancient world of gods and monsters, making it a must-see for fans of epic adventure. The film was followed by a sequel, Wrath of the Titans. There were plans for a third movie called Revenge of the Titans, which would have expanded the story further, but those plans were eventually canceled due to a lack of fresh ideas for the franchise. It would have been great to see more of this world. Given the vastness of Greek mythology, it's surprising that the franchise ran out of ideas so quickly. The mythological world is full of fascinating gods, creatures, and stories that could have been used to create more movies. King Arthur, Legend of the Sword is a bold reimagining of the classic Arthurian legend. Charlie Hunnam adds depth and charisma to the role of King Arthur, skillfully portraying his transformation from a streetwise underdog to a powerful ruler destined to wield Excalibur. His performance is both grounded and compelling, making it easy to invest in Arthur's journey. Guy Ritchie's directing style injects the film with a unique energy, blending fast-paced action with creative storytelling. His signature approach, filled with sharp editing, clever dialogue, and dynamic visuals, makes the film feel exciting while still honoring the essence of the Arthurian myth. The fantastical aspects of the myth are brought to life in a way that feels accessible. Originally, King Arthur, Legend of the Sword was meant to be the start of an ambitious franchise of 6 movies, exploring more of the characters, realms, and battles from the rich mythos. However, despite the movie's unique style, it underperformed at the box office, leading to the cancellation of the planned sequels. That's unfortunate because there was a lot of untapped potential. With its mix of modern action and classic mythology, King Arthur, Legend of the Sword brought a fresh take to a well-known story. It had all the ingredients for something epic, and it's sad that fans won't get to see where the story could have gone. Aquaman, as well as its sequel, are visually stunning dives into the world of underwater adventures. From start to finish, the films offer action sequences that keep you on the edge of your seat. The effects feel immersive, the performances are engaging. There are countless ideas for sequels. Additionally, more time spent in the rich underwater world of Atlantis could have allowed for deeper exploration of its politics, history, and even more mythical creatures from the sea. However, with the reboot of the DC universe, all the movies set in the Snyderverse won't continue. On a positive note, Jason Momoa, who played Aquaman, has been cast as Lobo in the DC universe.
Gods of Egypt had a lot of potential, but it didn't fully deliver. As a big fan of Egyptian mythology, I enjoyed the movie for what it is, but it's nowhere near as good as it could have been. In this video, we'll take a look at what went wrong with Gods of Egypt, and how some simple changes could have made the movie much better. The movie opens with a lengthy narration scene about the gods, explaining their powers and roles. Instead of just telling us everything, it would have been much more engaging to show it. For instance, when the narrator mentions that the gods can transform into terrifying creatures, imagine a scene where Horus stands tall, his eyes narrowing as he transforms into a fierce falcon, soaring through the sky with grace. Meanwhile, Set could transform into a massive creature, causing the ground to tremble with each movement. By visually demonstrating these transformations, the audience will not only grasp the gods' powers, but also feel the intensity and wonder of their abilities. The transformations are already shown in the trailers, so it's not like the filmmakers wanted to keep these designs a secret. Instead of relying on narration, showcasing these moments will create a captivating opening that draws viewers in, allowing them to experience the awe and danger of the gods firsthand. This approach would set the tone for the rest of the film, and establish a deeper connection between the audience and the characters right from the start. Showing instead of telling is better because it engages the audiences more, and makes the story feel more immersive. When you show something, you allow the viewers to experience the story firsthand, through visuals, actions, and emotions. This helps them connect with the characters and the world in a deeper way. Plus, showing adds layers to the story. It encourages viewers to pick up on clues and draw their own conclusions, making them active participants rather than passive observers. It can also create memorable moments that stick with the audience longer. The Legend of Hercules isn't just bad, it's a crime against mythology. Watching it should count as Heracles' 13th labor. It tries to tell the origin story of the great demigod, but somehow fails at everything. It's like someone watched 300 and Gladiator, then had a fever dream about Greek mythology, and decided to write the script while half asleep. The movie completely misses the mark on the grandeur of the mythology, and it flopped at the box office, bringing in $61.3 million on a $70 million budget. I watched the movie for free and I still feel like I got scammed. I'm gonna show you why this movie is a masterclass in how not to make a mythology film, and I'll be calling the character Heracles instead of Hercules, because that's the Greek name. From the get-go, everything looks so fake. It's like a cutscene from a video game, and not a good one. Honestly, where did that $70 million budget go? Did they just set it on fire for warmth? If you told me this was a money laundering scheme, I'd buy it without hesitation. The CGI looks like it was made by a guy with a free trial of After Effects. The Green Knight only cost $15 million to make, and it looks way better. Plus, that movie's 30 minutes longer, so they managed to do a lot more with a lot less. The Legend of Hercules can't even scrape together enough decent CGI to fill its short runtime. I have to remind myself that this is supposed to be a big budget movie, not an Asylum knockoff. off. The movie is set in 1200 BC, which just so happens to be around the same time as the Trojan War. Too bad that doesn't match up with Heracles' actual mythology. He lived a generation or two before the Trojan War, so by the time the war rolled around, Heracles was already long gone. The writers slapped a random ancient date on the story like they were picking lottery numbers. No research, no logic, just pure guesswork. The geography is totally off too. In real life, Argos is much further inland, not right on the coast like they show in the movie. So the movie gets mythology, history, and geography wrong. It's like the filmmakers played a game of throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, except nothing stuck. There's the epic showdown between King Amphitryon of Tiryns and King Galenus of Argos, where the winner takes it all. It's like the opening fight scene in Troy, where it's just a one-on-one duel between Achilles and Boagrius, instead of the two armies going at it, except Troy actually made it look good. At least in this movie, the king's fighting his own battles, but not in a way that anyone would call impressive. Amphitryon's appearance is basically a knockoff of Gerard Butler as King Leonidas in 300. They really should have gone in a different direction, because all it did was invite comparisons, and trust me, you don't want people looking at you and thinking, yeah, this is like 300 but way worse. Additionally, Galenus isn't a character from mythology. There are literally thousands of fascinating figures in Greek mythology, and they decided to make up some guy named Galenus. Were they worried that the actual characters from mythology might be too interesting? Did they think, maybe a new character will make this movie stand out, when all it really does is make it look like a bad fanfiction? The movie has so much unnecessary slow motion. You'd swear Zack Snyder was behind the camera, but nope, this train wreck was directed by Renny Harlin, a guy who's been making movies since 1980, though you wouldn't know it from this dumpster fire. You'd think someone with decades of experience would be able to make a halfway decent movie, but nope, somehow it led to this. It's almost impressive in a how did this even get made kind of way. This is also the same studio that made The Hurt Locker, a movie that won multiple Oscars. It had a fraction of the budget of this train wreck, so they really should know better. They went on to make Gods of Egypt, so they should stay away from mythology. Renny Harlin's IMDb page proudly claims he's the most successful Finnish film director in Hollywood, which based on this movie and his other work, isn't exactly a tough title to earn. He also directed Cutthroat Island, which set a Guinness World Record for the biggest box office bomb ever. So hey, at least he's consistent, just not in a good way. How do studios look at his resume and think, yep, this is our guy? Like sure, he's directed a string of flops, but maybe, just maybe, this time he'll magically deliver a hit. It's the definition of misplaced optimism. That's like hiring a chef who keeps burning down kitchens and hoping he'll finally make a 5-star meal. Was there really nobody else available? Apparently this guy has 5 movies in post-production, which begs the question, how does he keep getting hired? Amphitryon beheads Galenus, but somehow his head is still attached to his body. Did they forget to finish the CGI? Amphitryon's wife Alcmene isn't too happy with him, but what's she doing here? Why is she tagging along on a military campaign? Does Amphitryon need her for emotional support? And by the way, in mythology, Alcmene didn't hate Amphitryon. They actually had a positive relationship. Furthermore, the actress Roxanne McKee said in an interview, I rarely watch the stuff I'm in. I don't like it. Fair enough. If I starred in awful movies like this, I'd pretend they didn't exist either. But why confess that? You know a movie's a disaster when even the actors won't watch it. If the people getting paid big bucks to be in it are giving it the cold shoulder, then what hope do the rest of us have? Why does Amphitryon need 2 women to clean him? Is he too important to scrub himself? This guy's a war hero and a king, yet he can't handle a little soap and water? Does he think his royal title will implode if he gets his hands wet? What's next? He needs a whole team of servants to help him put on his shoes too? Iphicles is already a baby, but in mythology, he's supposed to be 1 night younger than Heracles. So unless this kid mastered time travel in the womb, he's way ahead of schedule since Heracles isn't born yet. The writers tossed accuracy out the window and gave Iphicles a head start for no apparent reason. But that's just the start of this mythological mess. Chiron is a human now? Anyone who knows Greek mythology could tell you he's supposed to be a centaur, not some regular guy. It makes 0 sense. This movie's packed with fantastical elements. It's not like Troy where they tried to keep things grounded. Chiron taught legendary heroes like Achilles and Jason, but Alcmene isn't usually on that list. I guess I'm expecting way too much from a writer who also worked on Halloween Resurrection, Cube 2 Hypercube, The Crow Wicked Prayer, and Conan the Barbarian 2011. With a resume like that, it's clear he's been honing the craft of terrible writing for years. And why did Amphitryon bring his baby son along on a military campaign? This isn't exactly bring your kid to war day. Alcmene prays to Hera for guidance. Hera possesses a priestess and tells Alcmene to bear Zeus's child. This completely spits in the face of mythology. Hera despises Heracles. He's a constant reminder of Zeus's cheating. As the goddess of marriage and family, there's no chance Hera would want her husband fathering children with other women. What kind of nonsense is this? They couldn't even get the simplest things right. That's like making Ares a pacifist or Poseidon terrified of the the ocean. I'm not against creative liberties, but if you're going to change things, at least make them good. This is just a complete mess. Hera names the baby Hercules, because apparently going with a Greek name was too much effort. Hercules is the Roman version of the name. An invisible Zeus somehow impregnates Alcmene, and the scene is unintentionally hilarious. I can only imagine the director's instructions. Alright, act like you're having the most passionate night of your life, with a particularly enthusiastic gust of wind. They don't show any of the gods in this movie, even though they exist in this universe. Did they run out of budget to hire any actors? Making a mythology movie without any gods is like making a Fast and Furious movie without family, just completely missing the point. If they didn't want to show any gods, they could have just stuck with the actual myth. Zeus disguises himself as Amphitryon. Just have the same actor who plays Amphitryon pretend to be Zeus for this scene. It's not rocket science. Amphitryon walks in, starts wildly swinging his sword at absolutely nothing, and then randomly murders a nearby woman for no apparent reason. Is this a mythology movie or a slapstick comedy? Amphitryon is very angry at Alcmene, but he was with another woman, so clearly loyalty isn't his strong suit. Guess the writers forgot basic character logic in the process. Heracles is born, and Amphitryon names him Alcides, which was his actual birth name in mythology. He got the name Heracles later on, so hey, credit where credit's due. They got one thing right. Shame they didn't bother sticking to the source material for the rest of the movie. And Amphitryon in mythology wasn't some power-hungry tyrant. He actually raised Heracles as his own son. Despite knowing Zeus was the real father, there's a 20-year time skip, and now Heracles is played by Kellen Lutz, who previously played Poseidon in Immortals, so it's not his first dip into Greek mythology. Though going from a god to a demigod is definitely a downgrade. Heracles is in love with Princess Hebe of Crete. In mythology, she's the goddess of youth, and the daughter of Zeus and Hera, which makes her Heracles' half-sister. But hey, that's not even the weirdest thing in Greek mythology. Zeus and Hera are siblings, so sibling couples are basically just another Tuesday in their world. In mythology, Hebe was Heracles' fourth and final wife. He married her after dying and ascending to Olympus, but of course this movie cuts out all the good stuff that actually made the story worth telling. Gaia Weiss plays Hebe, which is oddly fitting, since her first name comes straight from Greek mythology. Gaia is the primordial goddess of the earth, one of the very first deities to exist, basically the OG of the pantheon. Too bad her acting didn't quite have the same impact. Did they really need to slow motion the shot of the horse jumping over a log? Newsflash, boring scenes don't magically become epic just because you stretch them out in slow motion. Heracles pulls a prank on Hebe by pretending to drown after jumping from a great height. It's not that funny. Is this what passed for fun back then? The characters then share a heartfelt scene, but it's so bland and wooden. Bella and Edward's relationship in the Twilight movies had more chemistry, but the dialogue is so pretentious it hurts. They're clearly trying to be Shakespeare, but end up sounding like a bad first-year theater student who just discovered a thesaurus. You can see a clasp on the back of the necklace. Even though ancient Greece was a couple thousand years too early for that kind of jewelry tech, what, did the gods invent mass-produced necklace fasteners? Maybe Mount Olympus had an Etsy shop we never heard about. These night shots look awful. It's pretty obvious they shot everything in broad daylight and slapped a dark filter over it in post. Was it really too expensive to wait until actual nighttime to film? Or did they think nobody would notice? The characters fight the Nemean lion, and it looks cartoonishly small. In mythology, it was a massive, terrifying creature, but here, it's more like an oversized house cat. No way this movie actually cost $70 million, unless half the budget went to bribing people to say it looked good. There's a continuity error. Iphicles gets knocked down to the right of Heracles, and then he's standing up to the left of him. The editor must have been playing Where's Waldo, instead of paying attention to the footage. Heracles strangles the lion to death, which technically follows the mythology, but this fight scene was about as epic as a sneeze. Also, why is there a random Nemean lion wandering around in the woods? As the name suggests, the lion comes from Nemea, not popping up wherever the plot needs it. Maybe they ran out of ideas for locations. And the lion was part of Heracles' iconic 12 labors. It feels like the filmmakers are choosing random elements from mythology, like they're at a buffet, tossing whatever they want into the movie, without caring if it makes sense. How is Heracles supposed to complete his 12 labors, when he speedran the first one before the quest even started? Not that it matters, since this movie decided Hera isn't mad at him, so I guess he doesn't even need to do them. Forget the greatest trials of his life. He's basically on easy mode. And if you were sitting there, eagerly waiting for any of the other iconic creatures from Heracles' 12 labors to make an appearance, well, don't hold your breath, because they're nowhere to be found. It's like showing up to a party expecting cake, only to find out there isn't any. Iphicles takes credit for killing the lion, which is about as believable as Zeus saying that he's never had an affair. Iphicles feels completely miscast in this movie. He's got about as much menace as a puppy in a sweater. He should stick to playing King Arthur. It also goes against mythology. Iphicles was never as strong or famous as Heracles. It's like trying to replace Heracles with a knockoff action figure. Amphitryon wants Iphicles to marry Hebe, but Iphicles saw her kissing Heracles earlier. And let's be real, they've gone further. Why would would he want his brother's sloppy seconds? Even in ancient Greece, that's just awkward. It's like being forced to eat the last slice of leftover pizza that's already been half-eaten. Even though it's been 20 years, the king and queen still pretty much look the same. They just slapped a fake beard on Scott Adkins and hope no one would notice. I guess the budget didn't cover hiring actors to play the younger and older versions of the characters. Either that or immortality was casually thrown in as a subplot, and nobody mentioned it. Amphitryon is using the same cup as earlier. Is that his lucky cup that he's been holding onto for 20 years? Or are they reusing the same props? Maybe it's some sacred ancient Greek relic. Or maybe the budget was so tight, they had exactly one fancy cup for the whole movie. There's this totally fake looking green screen shot of Hebe turning around and looking back. It's like one of those old movies where they filmed the background separately, slapped it behind the actors, and had them act like they were in a moving car. This movie had a $70 million budget and came out in 2014. We were already using CGI that didn't look like it was from a school project. Hebe falls into the river, and Heracles has to jump in and save her, even though the current isn't that strong, and she should be able to swim just fine on her own. We need to have the hero save the helpless girl. Maybe next he'll save her from a puddle to keep the trend going. Heracles and Hebe get caught. Who could have predicted that? It's not like they were stealthy or anything. Alcmene finally tells Heracles who he really is. It's like, oh, by the way, you're the son of Zeus. Hope that doesn't mess up your identity crisis too much. Heracles doesn't react at all. If I found out my father was actually Zeus, I'd have a little bit of a reaction. Maybe some shock, confusion, or at the very least a, wait, what? Heracles gets sent to Egypt. This did happen in mythology, but it was more of a quick trip. He was there just long enough to deal with some trouble before moving on. Not enough to justify dedicating a whole chunk of the movie to it. But sure, let's drag it out, and pretend this is some grand essential part of his story, instead of just another excuse for filler. Iphicles threatens to kill Heracles if he comes back, which is a laughable threat. It's hard to believe someone who can barely stand up to a stiff breeze is going to take down a guy who literally wrestled a lion to death.
We're analyzing the Hercules film from 2014 and comparing it to the epic tales of Greek mythology. Get ready to discover the surprising twists, the mythic truths, and all the differences in between. Let's start with the title and the main character. In Greek mythology, Heracles is the original name, not Hercules. When the myths were adopted by the Romans, they renamed many gods and heroes, so Heracles became known as Hercules. Even though the name was changed, his stories and traits stayed the same. Since we're focusing on Greek mythology, the character will be referred to as Heracles throughout this video. It's stated that Heracles was born to Zeus, the king of the gods, and a mortal woman named Alcmene, and half-god. This is accurate to Greek mythology. Zeus disguised himself as Alcmene's husband, Amphitryon, in order to father Heracles. This divine parentage made Heracles a demigod, endowed with extraordinary strength and heroic qualities. Alcmene had other children besides Heracles, such as Iphicles and Laonomi. Zeus's queen Hera saw Heracles as an insult, since he was a living reminder of her husband's infidelity. Alcmene chose the name Heracles, which means glory of Hera, but this failed to appease Hera, and she wanted Heracles dead. This is also accurate to Greek mythology. Hera often harbored animosity towards many of Zeus's other children, especially those born from his extramarital affairs. Hera sent 2 snakes to kill Heracles, but he strangled them. This is true. In Greek mythology, Heracles did kill 2 snakes as a child. Hera sent 2 serpents to Heracles' crib. However, even as an infant, Heracles demonstrated his incredible strength by strangling the snakes with his bare hands. Once Heracles reached manhood, the gods commanded him to perform 12 labors. If Heracles completed all of the labors and survived, Hera agreed to let him live in peace. This statement is partially true, but needs some clarification. Once Heracles reached manhood, he was indeed tasked with performing 12 labors, but it wasn't a direct command from all the gods. The labors were imposed on him by King Eurystheus of Mycenae as a penance for Heracles killing his wife and children in a fit of madness caused by Hera. The promise that Hera would let Heracles live in peace if he completed the labors is not part of the traditional myth. Instead, completing the labors was meant to serve as a form of atonement for Heracles' past misdeeds and purify him of his sins. In some versions of the myth, Heracles was granted immortality or semi-divine status upon completing his labors, allowing him to reside among the gods on Mount Olympus after his death. Hera's hostility towards Heracles continued throughout much of his life, despite his completion of the labors. Heracles fights and kills the Lernaean Hydra. Heracles did fight the Lernaean Hydra as one of his 12 labors, but it was not his first labor. It was actually the second labor. The Hydra was a serpent-like monster with multiple heads. The Hydra's lair was in the swamp of Lerna. During the battle, whenever one of the Hydra's heads was cut off, 2 more would grow back in its place. With the help of his nephew, Heracles successfully defeated the Hydra by cauterizing each neck after decapitating it, preventing the heads from regenerating. This teamwork was essential to their success. That could not be be killed by conventional means. Heracles severed this head and buried it under a large rock to ensure it would cause no further harm. After Heracles defeated the Hydra, he dipped his arrows in its venom, which became a potent weapon for him in his later adventures. Heracles then fights the Erymanthian boar, but it was not his second labor. It was actually the fourth labor. The boar was a fearsome creature that ravaged the region around Mount Erymanthos. Heracles was supposed to capture the boar alive and bring it back to King Eurystheus as part of his penance. Despite the boar's ferocity, Heracles successfully subdued it and brought it back to Eurystheus. Took place during the winter season. In Greek mythology, this was actually his first labor, but Heracles did not use a club to capture the boar. He chased the boar up a mountain during winter, causing it to become exhausted and get trapped in the snow. Not the third. While on the hunt for the lion, Heracles crafted arrows to use against it, unaware of its invulnerable golden fur. Upon encountering the lion, he attempted to shoot it with his bow, only to learn of the fur's impenetrable nature as the arrow bounced off harmlessly. Eventually, Heracles lured the lion back to its cave, blocking one entrance before entering through the other. In the confined space, he subdued the beast with his club and with his mighty strength, strangled it to death with his bare hands. There are 9 other labors not shown. These include capturing the golden hind of Artemis, cleaning the Augean stables, vanquishing the Stymphalian birds, capturing the Cretan bull, stealing the mares of Diomedes, obtaining the girdle of Hippolyta, capturing Geryon's cattle, stealing the apples of the Hesperides, and capturing Cerberus from the underworld. This scene takes place on the Macedonian coast in northern Greece. The year is 358 BC. There was a region called Macedonia in ancient Greece. It was located in the northern part of the Greek peninsula. The most famous figure associated with ancient Macedonia is Alexander the Great, who famously conquered much of the known world in the 4th century BCE. Macedonia does also have connections to Greek mythology. For instance, Macedon, the ancestor of the Macedonian people, was said to be a son of Zeus. Greek myths are typically set in a mythological past and are not tied to specific historical years like 358 BC. Instead, while some myths may reference historical events or figures, they are not typically anchored to specific dates in the way that historical events are. So there wouldn't be a Greek myth set in the year 358 BC. Heracles wears the pelt. In Greek mythology, after Heracles successfully slew the lion as one of his 12 labors, he skinned the lion and wore its impenetrable pelt as a protective garment, symbolizing his strength and heroism. In many depictions of Heracles in Greek mythology, he is often portrayed with a beard and long hair. These physical features were commonly associated with masculinity and strength in ancient Greek culture, and they are frequently depicted in art and literature, representing Heracles as a powerful and heroic figure. However, it's important to note that artistic interpretations of Heracles may vary, and some depictions may show him with different hairstyles or facial hairstyles. Heracles has several other people helping him. There's Autolycus, Atalanta, Amphiaraus, and Tydeus. All of these characters are from Greek mythology. Autolycus was a master thief and a son of the god Hermes. He was known for his cunning and trickery, best known for taking place in the Caledonian boar hunt, and her involvement in the quest for the Golden Fleece. Amphiaraus was a prophet and a skilled warrior. He is famous for his role in the expedition of the Seven against Thebes, known for his strength and bravery, and is also associated with the expedition of the Argonauts. Here's a cool tidbit. Tydeus is portrayed by Norwegian actor Axel Hennie. However, none of these characters were part of Heracles' mercenary group. Heracles is often depicted as a solitary hero. He had help or fought alongside others on occasion. The Hydra had an immortal head. He then bound the boar with chains and captured it alive to bring it back to Eurystheus. Heracles fights the Nemean lion. In Greek mythology, this was actually his first labor. This became one of Heracles' most iconic attributes. Atalanta was a renowned huntress and a skilled archer. Tydeus was a hero and a warrior. Tydeus is a central figure in the story of the Seven against Thebes, who also lent his voice to young Heracles in the Norwegian dubbed version of the 1997 Disney film. But these characters are not commonly associated as part of a specific group led by Heracles. Get ready as we uncover all the similarities and differences between this modern retelling and the ancient tales that inspired it. Poseidon, the Greek god of the sea, earthquakes, storms, and horses, emerges from the water. Poseidon is wielding a trident, which is accurate to Greek mythology. The trident is one of Poseidon's most recognizable attributes. Poseidon is traditionally depicted with a beard in Greek mythology, which is not the case here. Poseidon is giant compared to a normal person. In Greek mythology, the gods, including Poseidon, are often depicted as larger than life, but not necessarily giants compared to humans. They possess a majestic and imposing presence that sets them apart from mortals. While there are no specific measurements provided for their size, gods are typically portrayed as being taller, more powerful, and more radiant than ordinary people. Poseidon has a tattoo of a trident on his arm. There is no mention of Poseidon having a trident tattoo on his arm. The depiction of tattoos is not a common element in ancient Greek descriptions of the gods. Poseidon shrinks into human form. In Greek mythology, the gods, including Poseidon, possess the ability to change their shape and size, including taking on human form, and interact with mortals in human form. This shape-shifting ability allows them to move among humans without revealing their divine nature, enabling them to engage in various interactions and interventions in the mortal world. Poseidon walks through New York City to the Empire State Building. Poseidon talks to Zeus at the Empire State Building. Zeus and Poseidon are related related in Greek mythology. They are both sons of Cronus and Rhea, making them brothers. Cronus was a Titan, and Rhea was a Titaness. Zeus, Poseidon, and their brother Hades, along with their sisters Hera, Demeter, and Hestia, were part of the second generation of gods known as the Olympians. Zeus is the youngest of the three brothers and is often regarded as the most powerful among them, as he became the ruler of the gods and the heavens after overthrowing Cronus. Sean Bean plays Zeus. Zeus is angry because someone stole his master lightning bolt and he can't create lightning because of it. In Greek mythology, Zeus is often depicted as wielding thunderbolts or lightning bolts as symbols of his power. However, there is no specific mention of Zeus needing a master lightning bolt to create lightning in the traditional myths. Instead, Zeus is typically described as having control over the weather, including the ability to summon storms and lightning at will. The thunderbolts are more symbolic of his authority and divine power, rather than being literal tools needed for creating lightning. Poseidon mentions that Zeus is omnipotent. In Greek mythology, there are limitations to his power. He is subject to the will of fate, the other gods, and certain cosmic laws. Additionally, Zeus often faces challenges and conflicts with other gods, titans, and even mortals throughout the myths. Poseidon says that they're forbidden from stealing each other's powers. In Greek mythology, there are no explicit rules or prohibitions preventing the gods from stealing each other's powers. However, there are consequences and conflicts that arise from such actions within the myths. The gods often engage in power struggles, rivalries, and conflicts with one another. Instead, the gods typically assert their dominance and influence through various means, including alliances, manipulation, and displays of power. Zeus thinks that Poseidon's son stole his master bolt. However, there are no tales of any of Poseidon's sons stealing Zeus's master bolt. Tartarus is both a place and a deity. As a deity, associated with the underworld and the deepest depths of the earth. As a place, Tartarus is a deep abyss, located far below Hades, the realm of the dead. Tartarus is depicted as a place of punishment and torment.
Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.